Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today for this live stream. We have a very special guest with us today, State Senator André Jacque, who is also a Republican candidate for the United States House of Representatives from Wisconsin's 8th Congressional District. Thank you, Senator, for being here.
Absolutely, Taos. Great to see you again. Happy to join you today.
Thank you. I have a series of questions that I would like to ask you about yourself, about your campaign, and also about some important issues that Americans are facing right now. And before we go into the questions, I would like to also highlight for the viewers that Senator André Jacque is one of the most prominent conservative voices in the state legislature, and he's running for Congress to stand up for common sense conservative values, to fight for lower taxes, and to protect our constitutional rights. And Senator Jacque and his wife Renée have 7 children, and they live in Pere, Wisconsin. So, Senator, welcome again. And, I'll start by asking you to tell us a little bit more about your background and how you got involved in Wisconsin politics.
Absolutely. So I really got involved as a volunteer for Republican and conservative causes when I was in high school. Actually, when Mark Green retook the 8th District from a Democrat, he was the only Republican to defeat an incumbent Democrat in the House in the 98 election cycle. And really had the opportunity to, whenever I wasn't working at Walmart or Burger King or babysitting or whatever, I was out helping his campaign, and actually was the most valuable volunteer for that campaign. They still have some lifelong friendships from that, and have not stopped ever since. So. I have recruited candidates to run for office at the local level, for state legislature as well. Have run campaigns. Have really worked at the grassroots, the nitty gritty, to go out and knock doors and get signs up, and everything that's necessary for our common sense conservative message to prevail. And for me, I've always been very proud of my work on standing up for pro life. For really all of our constitutional rights as well, and certainly for fiscal responsibility and conservatism there as well. So that's just kind of my background. But yeah, at a certain point, I was always very introverted as a kid. Politics has brought me out of my comfort level in a very positive way. And obviously, if I finally got to the point of feeling like I had to run myself, even when there have been, and there really have been some fabulous folks that I've worked for that have done a great job that I would agree with. But unless you're the person yourself investing the political capital and actually putting in the work and what you believe in, it's going to be hard to see the change that you want. And so I had to get off the sidelines, and very proud to have been in the fight.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So let me ask you, why did you decide to run for Congress, and what prompted you to make that decision? And in addition, if you could also tell the viewers about the 8th Congressional District. I know there are viewers from Wisconsin as well as out of state. So tell us about what prompted you to run for Congress, and about the 8th Congressional District.
Sure. So, it's kind of like when I first decided to run for state assembly against the Democratic incumbent. I had a lot of people that encouraged me to take that step, and certainly, you know, when there was the unexpected announcement from Congressman Gallagher, it was clear that there was a need for somebody who had a strong, proven conservative record, as well as somebody that actually would be a fighter for the citizens of the 8th District. And that means standing up to the establishment, standing up to the special interests, somebody who's not worried about taking hits politically to get the right thing done. And so that's why I chose to run. Certainly, I've represented a good chunk of the 8th Congressional District already in my state Senate district. It's about, well, over 40% of the 8th District. But the 8th District itself is, basically Northeast Wisconsin. It's kind of the Green Bay media market. And Yeah. I also did get drawn out of my district by Governor Evers' maps that
Mhm.
uh, were passed by the legislature. I didn't vote for them, but
Yeah.
so that certainly would be a nudge, I guess, in that direction as well, because I sit here right now and basically at the mercy of the state Supreme Court, which, as we saw with yesterday's decision, clearly is uh, going to, whenever it can, uh, just march us right off the left end of the
Mhm.
world.
Yeah. So if you are elected as the next congressman from the 8th congressional district, what would be your priorities? And we're going to go into individual big issues later in the interview, but just overall priorities.
Yeah, and I think it really has to start with some of those issues at the federal level that at the state level we can really only treat the symptoms of. So when we're talking about inflation, that really starts with the oversupply of money at the federal level, the reckless spending, and quite frankly, conservatives have abdicated their responsibility through the debt ceiling votes to get us on a more sustainable path forward. So that's something that I'm very eager to address. But certainly, when we talk about immigration and border
Mhm.
security, I mean, we have handed operational control of our southern border to the Mexican cartels, and we have drugs and thugs streaming across. Whether that's human trafficking, you've got fentanyl, you've got all sorts of other things happening. But uh, let's not forget these aren't just people from South America. These are people that are not vetted from all across the globe that are coming in and it is causing a huge issue, certainly sustainability for the long term for our country, but just in terms of public safety and homeland security. So that's critical that we address that, because our hands are tied in so many ways at the state level. Not that there aren't some things we can do. I've certainly been a strong proponent of ending funding for sanctuary cities, giving additional tools to law enforcement to deal with criminal illegal
Mhm.
aliens. English is the official language because that certainly is the way to succeed. Obviously, we've seen groups like Voces de la Frontera that are trying to basically create another country within our country that is going to hold people back. And so I think those are certainly two key issues. But there's really a whole broad spectrum when you're in Congress that you have to be prepared to address. And I think when you look at the just the variety of the broad spectrum of conservative issues that I've attacked, whether that is dealing with foreign adversaries buying farmland, when you're talking about the abortion subsidies that largely occur at the federal level, attacks on
Mhm.
our Second Amendment rights, wokeism in so many different forms. I've been kind of the lead author of legislation dealing with critical race theory, with the early sexualization of our kids through DPI. So I mean, there's certainly, like I said, though, a lot of things related to just the federal government going beyond the scope of what it's intended. I mean, we really need to fight the administrative state. We also need to eliminate that Department of Education should not exist. You look at the
Mhm.
ways that it has intervened in a negative way in in our education system. So. Yeah, there's certainly a lot of different issues to address.
Absolutely, and all of those are very important issues that need to be addressed. And when you're talking to the voters, there are different issues that the voters will talk to you about. People have different priorities, but I want to ask you, as you are campaigning, what are you hearing from the voters? What are some of the biggest issues that they are mentioning in the 8th congressional district?
Yeah, I mean, certainly, I think there's been a lot of concern with what the Biden regime has done to our country, and certainly when you look at again what's being done in the federal agencies, but yeah, obviously people are talking about Bidenflation. They are talking about just the public the safety concerns that they have. I will say election integrity is still a significant concern. Obviously, that's something that has to be addressed at the state level as well. I think it's important that we have folks in our congressional delegation that do echo and show leadership in trying to resolve that. But clearly we have major issues, particularly in Dane and Milwaukee County, and
Mhm.
unfortunately now in pockets like the city of Green Bay, we're seeing as well. So um, I think that there's obviously yeah, a lot of concerns that people have raised just in terms of uh, you know our standing in the world, the sustainability of our budgets and everything else. Um, but yeah, I mean, obviously, inflation is eating up people's retirement
Yeah.
savings. It's you know a looming threat.
Yeah, and that's exactly what my next question is about. One of the biggest issues that I hear from people is inflation. And as consumers, I think we're all impacted by this. And American families are struggling to make ends meet. And for many families, it's hard to put food on the table. People are making tough choices in this economy. And I think one group is particularly impacted, the seniors who rely on Social Security, and they're really having a hard time because of the rising prices in this economy. So inflation, which you mentioned, which I completely agree, is Bidenflation. Really, that's the term. Uh, it's been happening since Joe Biden came to office. So what's your solution to this problem?
Well, and I think certainly part of how we saw that occur was because of the disruptions in our economy during COVID that were really unnecessarily caused by Joe Biden's policies. And when you have, the government picking winners and losers, and crony capitalism is to blame, I think, for some of it. But certainly, when you look at the excess, money supply, I mean, there is a cost to a chicken in every pot, and the extent to which we are saying that we can continue to print money and it's not going to have an impact. I mean, uh, you kind of look at the deficit issue where people are talking about minting $1 trillion coin every 100 days to
Mhm.
somehow stay ahead of the debt ceiling. That's how ridiculous it is. But we've had any number of policies at the federal level that are basically social engineering, where we are encouraging, whether it's the Federal Reserve or, groups to basically push the envelope, knowing that they're going to get bailed out by taxpayers, and I think that's a major concern. So I think it's critical that we tighten our belt at the federal level, and again, we can't just keep kicking the can down the road with these continuing resolutions. Um, at some point, we have to get serious about lowering this trajectory of spending that we're on.
Exactly. Exactly. And in addition, inflation is not the only problem. It's a very big problem. But then we have the border crisis, which is also, I would say, the better term would be Biden border crisis, because it's been happening since Joe Biden came to office. His administration opened up the border. And so, if elected to Congress, what would you do to address the illegal immigration problem that we have?
Yeah, I mean, I think that we need to build the wall. We need to reestablish Remain in Mexico. We certainly need to support law enforcement and give them the tools when we're talking about deporting criminal illegals. I think that we need to use the power of the purse. Again, when we're talking about sanctuary cities and communities that are trying to thwart the overall homeland security and public safety of our country. So I think there's a whole lot that we need to do uh, to restore some confidence, because I call it an existential threat,
Hmm.
uh, because that's what if we don't have borders, we're not a country. And
Exactly.
uh, it's something where they come across with the fentanyl, and they use our U.S. Postal Service to deliver it every community across the entire country. Human trafficking is in every county in the state of Wisconsin. And you have basically, I mean, we have empowered just the worst criminal element, and frankly, terrorist cells for whenever the next attack
Hmm.
comes. It's absolutely critical that again we see these heartbreaking situations of crime that is perpetrated by people that uh, do not have legal status in the country. Not just that, they have committed crimes here as illegal aliens, and yet that we have prosecutors throughout this country that have again abdicated their responsibilities. I mean, it's basically the turnstiles of releasing people with ill intent. Many times, people that have criminal records in other countries that we have not vetted or we've just simply allowed into the country. I mean, I tell you, we can't be flying people in that we know aren't going to be beholden to our laws and aren't going to follow them. It's critical that we reestablish the orderly process that we had before, and certainly under President Trump, we had just a tiny fraction of the issue that we have today. And obviously, if again, that's one of the reasons why I tell people it's not enough just to elect people who say that they're conservatives or people that have an R after the name, especially in conservative districts like this one. It's absolutely critical that we deliver on the promises that we've made, because we had that opportunity before with the Republican Congress and President Trump, and we didn't get the job done. And it's going to be more critical than ever that we actually have people that are going to hold the feet to the fire to make sure, wait a second, we said we were going to tackle this. We're going to do this the right way this time. And frankly, we need people that are willing to have those kinds of discussions on spending as well, because I can tell you, as somebody who has pushed for spending reductions, there are a lot of folks that don't like to have those conversations. But the reality is, uh, yeah, we are uh, on an unsustainable path.
Yeah.
And frankly, we can't just be Democrat light and reduce the amount of increases that we want to see. We have to look at what's already there and start cutting.
Yeah. It's as you mentioned, it's an unsustainable path. The national debt keeps growing, and at some point, tough choices will have to be made, and so we need
Well,
leaders who can make those tough choices, right?
Well, and when you were talking before about inflation, I mean, simple things like, yes, we don't have the Green New Deal yet. Certainly, the Democrats are looking to impose that. However, there already exist any number of subsidies for things that don't, have the support in the open market, that are leading to higher utility rates. Things that incrementally are, increasing people's cost of living. And, government is directly contributing to, whether that's electric cars or whatever else. Those are things that you know have an impact on Biden inflation. So
Yeah, yeah.
uh,
Yeah, you mentioned the Green New Deal. I know that the Democrats in many ways they are trying to push elements of the Green New Deal on the people. And what really bothers me is, why should the government try to dictate what kind of car I want to drive? I mean, I want to drive a gas-powered vehicle. It's my choice. I want to drive an electric vehicle. That's my choice. But here's the Biden administration. They are trying to favor one kind of vehicle, one kind of appliance over the other choices that exist. And that really bothers me, because that's not the job of the government, right?
Exactly. And, and that's kind of the point I was making before when I was talking about crony capitalism, is that, essentially, when the government starts to pick winners and losers, and we've seen it do it before in things like venture capital, or, I mean, quite frankly, we saw it, all the way back under Governor Doyle in Wisconsin, where they would set up various state grant programs, and then they would immediately choose the most left wing, progressive causes to fund, and just to make score political points. And that's essentially what the Green New Deal is it's trying to basically favor, again, technologies that can't otherwise survive in the marketplace, in a way that it also is, I mean, you look at some of the things that have been done toward nuclear energy, or against the transmission of safe, reliable, baseload power, natural gas, uh, the oil and energy security, the pipelines. It's something that clearly, um, you know, the- it's all on this, bow to political correctness that the left wants us to do.
Yeah, yeah. So we're gonna now talk about workforce, because we know that our country needs a strong workforce to be able to compete and to stay competitive globally. And there are many workforce challenges that exist right now. So what steps would you take if you are elected to Congress to strengthen America's workforce?
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to focus on providing workers the actual knowledge and skills that they need to succeed, as opposed to the wokeism, all of the political correctness and everything else that is being put into classrooms that isn't helping people learn. We have to engage every student, and I'm a strong believer in school choice, because I believe that when you have more options, that accrues to the direct benefit of students and their families. I've been a strong supporter of youth apprenticeship, or any number of other pathways to be able to have students follow something that they're interested
Hmm.
in.
Hmm.
Um, so I think that, um, obviously, the left would like us to believe that, well, the path forward is through the university system, where they can indoctrinate and train individuals. And by the way, we're just going to have the taxpayers foot the bill for you. And the reality is that whatever pathway somebody chooses, we have, certainly a need, and certainly that's something that demographically we are going to have those challenges. But we can't have people, on the sidelines. And part of that is government creates disincentives to work, whether that's through the benefit cliffs, whether
Hmm.
that is through, excessive incentives not to work. I mean, we need to create incentives to work. And one of the things uh, that Donald Trump recently had proposed was eliminating the income tax on tips. Well, that's actually something that I had proposed with then State Representative Cody Horlocker, now Judge Cody Horlocker, just couple years ago.
Hmm.
Um, I think we were actually the first in the country to basically say, "Hey, we and this is a very conservative idea. We're going to let you keep more of what you earn. We aren't going to basically penalize your hard work and entrepreneurial spirit." And so I think there's a lot of things that we can do, because ultimately, how do we help instill that work ethic? Well, tell people that government isn't just going to reach their hand in and take out a huge chunk of what you earn. That's absolutely critical, that we have a tax system that is not so burdensome, that allows for people to take their own money and invest in the things that they want to see, that gets reinvested in the economy many times over. Then.
Exactly. And that no tax on tips it's really a common sense proposal, right? I mean, letting
Yeah, I
people
was
keep
I was
more of
I
their
was
money.
really excited to see that. I
Yeah,
had a couple news outlets reach out to me on that, because they're like, "Well, actually, somebody's proposed this before." And like, "Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, we did."
yeah. Well, that's great. So we're going to talk about education now. We know that the future of our country depends on the future generations, which means the future of our country depends on good education. We've already talked about education a little bit, but let's go into a little bit more details. We know that there are many challenges in the education sector right now. If elected
Mhm.
to Congress, what actions would you take to improve America's education sector?
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, I said earlier, I support eliminating the Department of Education. I think when you look at all the strings that get attached, and kind of lead to cross purposes for what people should be doing to innovate at the state and local level, um, I think ultimately. what we've seen with education is that it's not how much money you spend, it's how you spend it. So I think we again want to uh, create opportunities as much as possible for students. We want to end the indoctrination and things that are unrelated to uh, gaining the skills to succeed in today's economy. Um, I think part of it is just restoring that confidence in terms
Mhm,
of we have had. I mean, right now we have Governor Tony Evers, somebody who was at the Department of Public Instruction for years. We knew he wasn't doing a good job, and we have massive achievement gaps. We have really an unwillingness from one of the political parties to do anything to address uh, just some of the basic systemic issues.
mhm.
And I think that it's going to be critical that we engage parents, that we give students the opportunities, and yeah, it's not good. I mean, we can't continue to look to government for the solutions in these, and so much of what we've seen. Um, is that the solutions come from the innovators, whether that is charter and choice, or that it's not so much competition as recognizing that one size fits all uh, does not benefit everybody's learning style.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
And you mentioned a great point about parents being engaged. I think that's so important. It's not okay to just send your kids to school and not know what's going on. Parents will have to stay engaged and informed about what the kids are learning in schools. Um, so
Yeah,
yeah,
parent engagement is critical. And, I think along with eliminating Department of Education, what that does is that's eliminating mandates as well. That's eliminating some of those costs that I've heard from local superintendents about. And I mean, I think there are any number of issues too, whether at the state or the federal level, where we have essentially unfunded mandates, or very partially funded mandates. I mean, I can remember I've actually had legislation on this before that's gotten through committee, with very strong support. But I've had legislative leadership. I can remember the assembly speaker in particular saying, "Well, Andre, you're going to realize there are going to be one things that we want to mandate on folks that we don't want to pay for." I'm like, and that's the point of this legislation, is that if we're going to tell somebody else to do something, we better pony up the cash, or maybe think about whether or not that's a core function of government to put on their plate. So, yeah, very,
yeah,
very strong supporter of states' rights and
sure.
sovereignty there. And I think that uh, Department of Education gets in the way of that.
Okay. So right now, as you're running for Congress, you are in a primary. There are other Republican candidates who are running for the same seat that you're running for. So please tell us what kind of support and endorsement you are receiving.
Yeah. Well, most importantly, the people of the Eighth District. Everywhere I go around, at the farm breakfast, the parades, every community event. But I have the endorsement of the Wisconsin Professional Police Association, Milwaukee Police Association, Pro Life Wisconsin. Um, Countless conservative local elected officials, Wisconsin Conservative Digest. Um, but I think I'm very proud to let my record in office speak for me, because I think it shows something that the other candidates don't have, which is that even when it has not been for my own personal benefit, I've stood strong for my constituents, for the conservative cause. I've been punished for it, but it's something that I wouldn't change a thing, because I'm in public life simply to be able to be that change that I want to see. And I can look myself in the mirror every day, knowing that I've stayed true to my principles and to my district.
Sure. Yeah. So, as you're campaigning, what kind of challenges are you facing? Are there challenges?
Um, Boy, I mean, there's never enough hours in the day for
That's
everything
true.
that you'd like to get to. It's hard to
That's true.
when things are at the same time. But I'll say, the biggest challenge. I mean, I'm not from the establishment. There are
Mhm.
certainly people um, that are more likely to support folks that promise certain things. And uh, in my case, all I can promise is that where I stand, what I've done, where I will be. And um, maybe that doesn't get some of the extra campaign contributions. I'm not going to be as well funded as my opponents, but that hasn't stopped me in my previous races where that's been the same issue. So there's frustrations because there's always whispers and false information that's thrown out there that they might be trying to get somebody to respond. But the reality is that um, that there's no challenge that I don't think we're up to.
Yeah. So, regardless of the challenges, you've got the energy and the strength to move forward with this campaign.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, you have to. I've been very active as a state legislator. Um, and I think that certainly I had my struggle when I was in the hospital with COVID. That was at a time where I was recovering from thyroid cancer. I had not had my sleep apnea addressed and things of that nature.
Mhm.
I've got more energy now than I ever did before, and I can tell you that uh, you know DC isn't going to be ready to handle me because I need the next challenge. We got to drain the swamp.
And those endorsements that you receive, those are significant endorsements. So, obviously, you've got a lot of supporters out there who are
Yeah,
looking at you.
yeah. No, I mean, I think we just had 10 members of the Brown County Board of Supervisors. I think another six from the Outagamie County Board. A lot of conservative school board members. I've got a lot of folks that are involved at the local level, many times taking control from liberal majorities. So very proud of that. But also just people from all walks of life, people that have been real advocates in their communities. Moms for Liberty sort of folks, and retired law enforcement, and uh, you know football coaches, and there's just obviously very very proud of my work in the pro life movement and supporting crisis pregnancy centers and everything else there. It's just um, no, it's I think again, my advantage is that I've been in the trenches fighting alongside a lot of folks in the conservative movement for years, and uh, I'm just truly honored to have their support as they're going out there for me now.
That's wonderful, and I do follow your social media posts on Facebook, and I know that you're out there campaigning, working hard. Uh, so, what else would you want the people of the Eighth Congressional District to know about you as they are trying to make a decision about who to vote for? And also, please tell us when the primary election is.
Yep. So the primary election is Tuesday, August 13th. So it's coming up here in less than a month and a half. So um, circle that date on the calendar. Um, yeah. I think and as people make that decision, I think again, just look at the candidates and not just what they're telling you, but what they've done. I mean, it's not just what somebody's saying, but whether or not they mean it. And we just had a rating from Wisconsin Family Action had 100%. I was actually the only legislator that had a 100% rating from the Northeast Wisconsin Conservative Coalition, the Tea Party groups up here in
Mhm.
Northeast Wisconsin. They rated a number of bills that have come through the legislature. And I mean, I think it just comes down to I've been willing to be held accountable. But, I'm also the candidate that is, talking about more than just one or two issues. I think, you know, on the broad spectrum of issues, it's not just that I would vote the right way, it's that I've shown leadership. And I think that that's something that's critically important, that when you have, just one vote in Congress, that you have somebody who is not just going to follow the pack. Or, I mean, I can tell you there are folks in the state legislature that you could probably replace them with a robot that can, uh, you know, press or say the vote the right way and issue an AI generated press release, and you wouldn't know that they aren't there anymore on either side of the aisle. But I think that you know I'm somebody that is looking to make the most of my time here on this earth to make a difference, and I'm very proud of that.
Well, thank you for sharing that. And so, if people want to know more about your campaign, where should they look for more information? Would you please share the website info?
Yes, so go to www.jacque4wi.com. So it's Jacques, the number 4, wi.com. JACQUE 4, the number 4, wi.com.
Okay, well, thank you for sharing that. And, thank you, Senator Andre Jacque, for spending some time talking to me on this live stream today. It's wonderful to have you. And I appreciate you sharing your thoughts and views on so many different issues that matter to the people, and for telling us more about your campaign. And you obviously highlighted that it's important to look at somebody's record, so people can look at your record, your voting record, and really see the things that you believe in and how you voted on things. So thanks for highlighting that and for sharing your website info. So there's obviously a lot at stake this year. I mean, right now, the House of Representatives, there's like razor thin, I think, the margin. And so it's very important for Republicans to keep the 8th congressional district in Republican control, so that we have solid representation in Washington from the 8th district. And we obviously have to try to retain our majority in the House for next year. So primary date is coming up soon in August. Once again, it's August 13th, right?
August
People should
13th.
mark that date on your calendar. So, Senator Jacque, thank you once again. I wish you all the best, and it was wonderful having this conversation with you. And thanks for sharing your thoughts and your views with the people.
Thank you, Tausif. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Have a good day.
You
Wish you
too.
all the best. Thank you.